Right. Who do we have? Start this soon. Gonna wait for everybody to join in first. Well, hello everybody. Hello Kai, Sassy, Andrew. Hello guys, how are you? Been given a beer. How is self-isolating going? Right, so I thought we'd do a random live stream because everyone's at home these days. We're not doing much, and let's just see how everybody's actually doing. I'm sure you've all seen the news over the last few days on a daily basis. The government is obviously trying to take some sort of action. As you've seen, Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak have officially nationalised the country. So that's what's happening now. Whether if you're a libertarian or classical liberal, new liberal, whatever, these are dark times. But hopefully this is all part of our temporary measures rather than permanent or long term. We're not, as someone just said, we're not all in self-isolation. We are just being forced to not leave our houses. On the one hand, at least it's not as bad as Italy. So thank God for that. Who's this? Bronda said, I love your haircut. Well, at least someone does. Thank you. Who is freaking out and who is keeping calm and carrying on? The German banking. The beer is actually, someone just said, what's the beer? I've gone slightly European. We got Australia tonight. Hopefully YouTube is not going to demonetize this. This is not a sponsorship. I'm just happen to be drinking Australia. We are running out of British beer. No more British beer. People thought no deal Brexit is going to be bad. Nope, this is worse. So yeah, the way things are going, we're going to have to get used to this situation at least for the next couple of months, few months. Which is kind of bad for YouTubers like me because there's nothing in the news to talk about. But we still have the main issue, which is actually affecting everything. And as you've seen, there are a lot of people on the left and Remainer side who are trying to say, oh, because we are going through this chaotic situation, we have to delay the Brexit transition. Obviously, it's idiotic, but unfortunately, the people in charge are your bureaucrats who would just go with it. They say, yeah, we should probably do it. But the logical thing to do is for the government to continue their daily work with the important things to focus on, whether it's defence, whether it's policing. So, for example, when it comes to Sadiq Khan in London, this is not an excuse for him to ignore what's happening in London. This is not an excuse for the UK government to forget about defending our citizens. Hello, thank you, Snooker, thank you. But at the same time, so this also includes our constitutional issues and trade issues, i.e. the Brexit trade talks. So obviously, ideally, the way things are going, if the government stays with the December 2020 deadline, and if the European Union don't negotiate, then fine, we can leave on WTO terms. That's their problem. And also, I was listening to a couple of people from the Telegraph who were saying this is probably the best time for us to leave on WTO terms because it's already chaotic. No one's going to notice what's happening with no deal Brexit. Probably right, because we're already going through financial problems. As I said, the government have nationalised the country. Adam, hello Adam. He said, did you see that France tried to confiscate medical equipment at the border? Yes, the situation in Europe is hilariously sad. If for any of you who watched the video I posted earlier about Hungary, Hungary are taking strong measures, which is slightly, you could say, authoritarian leaning, anti-democracy, but it's their sovereign right as a government. If the people don't like it, they could get rid of the government. That's just how it works. And the European Union aren't really happy about this. But this just proves our point. We always said the Europhiles, they're obsessed with this idea of a European umbrella and the European family. At the end of the day, each nation state is still a nation state, and if they want to take back control, they can. And the EU, well, the worst thing they could do is try to punish or kick them out. Now the EU are kicking off, saying if Hungary continue the way they're doing, they're either going to be punished or be expelled. Well, we could disagree with what Hungary is doing, but we also could disagree with the European Union's position on this. Stuart, question: have you seen the EU offer any type of support to its nation states in these times? Absolutely not, and that's the whole point of the European Union losing control of the situation, because the national governments are taking actions, and the EU are basically like these left out kids who are not being picked, and they're like, well, we want to play, but no one cares, because it's just a fantasy. We're not going to have a Europhile United States of Europe the way things are going, because European countries, including France and Germany, who are very pro-EU, at the end of the day, if the time comes, like now, they'll look after themselves first, rather than the European neighbours. So Branda says, as someone said, how come Hungary gets preferential treatment? Well, yeah, it's not necessarily that. It's because the EU, they bluff quite well. They talk a good game, but they know that they can't lose any of these member states. They know that they can't completely go against them. The same thing happened with Greece a few years ago with the financial problems in Greece, and all they did was to bail them out and put them in a more financial misery. And Germany has been ruling Greece on a financial level for a long time now. The EU are desperate enough to keep their situation. The same thing happened in 2016 when we voted leave. They said that the EU don't need us anymore. They could survive without us. At the end of the day, they came back to the negotiating tables, and because they know that they need us, if not more than we need them, at least on the same level. So on a political level, financially, trade-wise, they need us more than we need them. So the European Union, this could be the start of nation states and citizens in Europe waking up when the whole thing's over, to wake up and say, what did the European Union do for us actually? Did they do anything? Did they actually help us? What is the function? What's the point of having this European bloc? So this is the whole problem with the EU. No one knows why it exists anymore. John Craig. So the EU is unhappy with the government's financial actions. Hurrah, hurrah, let's stick them. Yeah, because as you've seen, they're also kicking off when it comes to Rishi Sunak's socialist measures. Because as I said, now that we're going completely interventionist, authoritarian because of the current situation, the European Union's fundamental values, they say we have to be competitive and pro-EU values. They are criticising the Boris Johnson's government. I can understand if they criticise Hungary or any other government, Germany, France. We are no longer a member. I keep saying this, you were no longer a member. I don't know why they do this. Mr. Privacy, welcome as a new supporter. And I actually quite love your username, Mr. Privacy. Why are the EU so upset about our government being supportive? Well, again, it's because, as I said, it's not necessarily if they're pro or against it, it's because they're feeling left out. And none of the prime ministers or presidents around Europe have even gone to Brussels to discuss any of these issues. This problem, as Nigel Farage wrote in the Telegraph a few days ago, and a few others too, is proving that this pseudo-globalism is actually coming. It's fake. It's inefficient. Nation states and nationism, if not nationalism, but nationism, is actually strong and is alive and kicking. At the end of the day, if people want to look after their own country, they will. So this is the situation we have, and the EU is irrelevant because when there's a time for chaotic situations like now, you go to your parliament, you go to the president's palace. You don't really go to Brussels, and this is why they're kicking off. This is why they're criticising Rishi Sunak. Let's see do you have any questions about the current situation or anything else? It could be anything at this point. Well, yeah, RSH, nationalism is not a bad thing. Actually, nationalism as a word, as a kind of phrase, it has attracted some negativity. But at the end of the day, if you look at nationalism the way you look at patriotism, that's fine. Because Nick Ferrari on LBC always says, you could always be open and welcome into the world whilst you look after your own people first. And we do that all the time. We live in our own homes. We have a door. We don't really have our doors open. We have our family. We don't really welcome strangers for the sake of it. And it doesn't mean we hate everybody else. That doesn't mean we hate strangers. You can still be open to everybody. You can still trade with everybody, cooperate. But your people, your community, your family always comes first. And your survival. And people tend to forget that. The people who are the fake liberals, the illiberal liberals always forget that because they think they go with the idea of being a globalist and having a Star Trek fantasy. But at the end of the day, it's not true. But as Bronda says, the European Union are against our government helping our people is because they're feeling left out. It's absolutely stupid. Whether you agree or disagree with Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak at this point, and again, as a libertarian, classical liberal-leaning right-winger, on a normal day, I would disagree. At this time, I don't think I have any say. At this point, I think this situation requires some sort of intervention because we live in a world where Western democracy, people still rely on governments. So we can't really have a libertarian utopia. So if the EU are upset about Rishi Sunak helping the country, then that's their problem. So yes, what else do we have? Giles said there's a lot of random comments. I'm kind of missing out on all the comments. Sean Burns says Rishi is a very intelligent man. To be fair, he's been quite impressive. And you could, again, I sometimes agree and disagree with some of the policies that's coming out of Number 11 and Treasury. But as a politician, Rishi Sunak is quite impressive. And we'll see how it actually ends. EEC. Democracy is dead. Authoritarian regime is here. Police state. Well, yeah, as I said, everybody is worried. Oh, not everybody. Some people who are authoritarian, they're loving this. The statists are loving this. The people like me, the pro-freedom side, we are quite concerned about some of the measures because if they stay longer, then, our lives are going to be quite interrupted. And I don't want to live in a police state. I don't want to live in an authoritarian state. And the problem we've always had, and Margaret Thatcher, whether you agree or disagree with their policies, she faced the same problem. The more you give to the state, it will be a lot harder to take back. And then you get labelled, that you don't care, you don't have compassion. So, in the words of nationalism and giving to the public good, the state and governments will take over. And that's not good. People should not get excited about all these short-term measures. Future Italian EU referendum. Happening. Oh, yeah. I mean, the European nation-state members and everybody else, I think there will come a time after this when everything's calmed down. They will actually reconsider their relationship with the European Union. Some of them, at least. Thank you so much for your donation. How are the binmen going to be safe, taking the waste away? Well, it's a very good question. I've also been concerned about people who are homeless. Because people who are homeless living outside and they are still exposed to a lot of people out there. And the one concern that a lot of people have is cash, literally coins and notes. So if someone is infected and decides to help a homeless person and give him a note or a coin, that will be a problem. And how are these people going to get any support? It's the same with bin men or certain people in the public sector. I don't think there's any real support for them from the government side. The government is going initially they start with helping people who are voters. That's why the government went with businesses, because businesses vote. And now they're going after to look after the rent payers and obviously self-employed and eventually. And I think when it comes to bin men and homeless people and also a lot of other people who do jobs that in the eyes of a lot of people who are living in Hackney or Islington, they don't matter. I don't think they're going to get any support anytime soon. So Matt says, pubs closed, shops empty, panic buying, mass redundancies, everyone's skint and school closed. It's almost as if Corbyn won. Or if you had asked a Remainer, it's almost as if no deal Brexit has happened. Yeah, it's not good. But as I said, this is a good example. This is a good situation in terms of showing the difference between the British mentality, the British culture, compared to the others. with all the problems, apart from certain people who are going out there panic buying, as a whole, as a nation, we are keeping calm and carrying on. It doesn't mean we're complacent. There are some people who are, being difficult, but at the same time, we are doing quite well. If you look at other countries, Italy, the reason the Italian government had to go full on was because the Italians were refusing to obey. They were saying, no, it's not even a big problem. Again, we could agree or disagree with the way this virus is going, how dangerous it could be or not. At the same time, the Italians were just so complacent that the government had to go completely authoritarian. And the reason Boris Johnson is still, technically speaking, not doing a full shutdown is because the British mentality would follow the rules rather than compared to the others. Giles, thank you very much. Giles says, I guess it's high time I paid you something for your work. Have a fiver for now, almost. Thank you. Thank you. I was expecting a question, but thank you so much, Giles, for the support. So yeah, I just wanted to do like a random live stream. What I want to do is, now that most of us are going to be stuck at home most of the time, we can't really go to pubs anymore. We're going to do more of these live streams just to hang out, kind of see how everyone's doing, and if you have any questions, and stay up to date with the situation. So we're going to do more of this in the future, in the next few days. So thanks for joining tonight, and I hope you have an amazing evening. Technically it's a weekend, even though it doesn't feel like a weekend. So I'll speak to you guys soon, and tomorrow I'm going to do a normal video as usual, 5:45 hopefully, unless something goes wrong. Otherwise, thanks again for joining. Good night.